You both have been in this world for so long, and I feel silly continuing to talk about the Prince Harry immigration case because I'm pretty confident that Donald Trump would not do anything to jeopardize his relationship with the royal family. But I'll start with you, Hugo.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a major controversy. Kinsey Schofield is not holding back when it comes to Meghan Markle and the Invictus Games. Is she turning it into a PR opportunity rather than supporting veterans and wounded soldiers?
There is some historical significance here to see a royal, the even discussion of a royal potentially being deported from the United States because of dishonesty on immigration papers. I mean, it's worth giving oxygen to. Am I correct or incorrect there?
Well, I think it's one of those situations where you have to apply the same rules to everybody. And if he's been given preferential treatment, if something's been overlooked, well, then Trump will want to undo that. And of course, Trump is also not a great fan, particularly not of Meghan Markle, because she was very rude about him early on. And he was, on the other hand, hugely admiring of our late Queen, whose accession day it would have been today, 6th of February. But, you know, he might decide to have a go at him, and he might decide to, it would be in a way a sort of slightly cheap shot. I think Donald Trump's got more important things to worry about than Prince Harry, but I can see it would obviously get a lot of publicity if he suddenly decided to boot him out. And the reason that he would do that would be on some technicality, but also he's quite right, of course, that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle both did upset the Queen a lot in the last 2 years of her life. There's no question about that at all. And that's something for which is pretty unforgivable.
But Dickie, I know that Melania Trump has talked about how she's a special pen pal with King Charles. I would almost say that you could translate that into friendship. Do you believe that President Trump would do anything to harm that special relationship that it feels like the Trump family has with the royal family? Hurting Harry almost hurts the king. Am I being too sensitive?
I think you might be being a bit too sensitive. Trump has great admiration for the British monarchy. He had a good relationship with our late Queen, and a good relationship with the King when he was the Prince of Wales, as did Melania. And they wouldn't want to do anything to harm that relationship. But at the end of the day, Trump thinks about America first.
Or is the media blowing things out of proportion? We'll break it all down, so stick with me till the end. And hey, if you love royal drama and exclusive analysis, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. All right, let's get into it.
And he feels that nobody should be above the law. Now, Harry openly admitted in his book Spare that he did take drugs, that cocaine wasn't all that it lived up to be. So, there is an admission of having taken drugs. Now, American immigration are very strict on drug takers. They don't allow them in the States, and yet Harry is there. So they want to clear this up. There's a certain amount of immunity that was granted Harry by the Biden administration. Harry is kind of entitled to a diplomatic passport or diplomatic immunity, although he's not a diplomat, but working royals. But then you see the other side of the coin. Harry is not a working royal. He walked away from it. He was not stripped, but told he cannot use HRH, His Royal Highness. So between the devil and the deep blue sea, I don't think Trump will want to get involved, but he's got all his people in place in the right place, Department of Homeland Security and Immigration, and he'll watch from the sidelines and let it take its course and see what happens from there. Might be a presidential declaration, we don't know, but let's wait and see.
A stark reminder that scandal is tolerated differently depending on who the subject is.
Hugo, Harry and Meghan complain about this intrusive press, the intrusive press and violating their privacy. But Prince Harry could make this go away by just being honest about what he said on his papers. why is he not just, this story could have died 2 years ago if you just would have said, well, here's a copy of it. I was honest, I was upfront, it was the plague, so they were willing to let me through. I don't know. It just seems silly that he will complain about the press intrusion but doesn't actively stop it by just being honest and upfront.
Well, do we know what he put on his application? He may have done what a lot of people do, I imagine, and put no when sometimes they should put yes, because it stops a lot of questions being asked, and usually these things just go through. I'm not advocating that, by the way, but that maybe well is what happened. Then, of course, there was another interesting thing, which was that there was a rumor, I don't know if it's more than that, that they were buying a property in Portugal, and that made me wonder whether perhaps they were thinking, if Trump does boot us out, we've got somewhere to go. I don't know.
What is the Invictus Games? The Invictus Games were founded by Prince Harry in 2014 as an international sporting event for wounded, injured and sick service members. It's an inspiring event, meant to shine a light on their resilience and strength. But this year the focus shifted. Why? Because of Meghan. Royal commentator Kinsey Schofield didn't hold back. She called out Meghan for making the event about herself rather than the veteran.
That's right. I was just thinking about that. Someone asked me where would they go. I said, well, Portugal or Canada, I imagine. Dickie, it is a little interesting that now that it's the Trump administration, the same judge has a change of heart. Do you think that that's a little suspicious?
Slightly suspicious, but then the same judge was under the Biden administration and things have changed under the Trump administration. Hugo saying about a rumor that the Sussexes have bought a property or thinking of buying a property in Portugal. Harry is a Brit. Now, UK is out of the European Union, which means Harry only gets 90 days if he decides to go to Portugal out of 180. So he can't go there and live there forever because it just doesn't work. Everybody who's a Brit and doesn't have the proper papers is only allowed 90 days out of 180. So let's wait and see on that one. But I think the judge now, he probably feels on safe ground. His president, he's a Republican, put there in 2018 by President Trump in his first term, and he now feels that he can go a little bit further and open up those papers. How far and how much he opens remains to be seen. But when you start redacting, then that opens a whole can of worms and people will ask all sorts of questions. They'll ask more questions if it's redacted than they have been so far.
Okay, one more question on this I'll ask both of you. Have you noticed that Harry and Meghan pulled back politically? They did seem to be more outspoken. I don't know if you remember this, but during I believe it was the 2020 campaign season, Meghan did multiple digital events with Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris. They sat down with when they were hosting the Time Most Influential People for ABC. They made reference to, they hinted at voting for Biden, encouraging voting for Biden and change and positive change. It seems like they have reeled that outspoken political commentary in. Is it because they're trying to build a commercial brand and they realize that they are alienating 50% of the country by leaning heavily towards one side of the political aisle? Or were they fearful of Donald Trump being elected and potentially encouraging this, chaos around Prince Harry's visa? Dickie, I'll start with you.
Meghan showed up days after the event began with a grand entrance, wearing designer outfits and taking center stage. Instead of keeping the attention on the athletes, media coverage shifted toward Meghan's speeches, outfits and PDA moments with Harry.
Well, they're not very good at listening to advice. They listened to the last person that spoke to them. And meddling and muddling around in politics is not good for a brand. If you've got a brand and you've got a sellable brand, and when they started out, they had the potential of a sellable brand. But today, a lot of people are not going to go near them because they're too toxic. So it's backtracking. Having made that political stance, they're now backtracking, trying to recapture lost ground, whether they can do or not. Mud does stick. And whether they can recapture that lost ground remains to be seen. There's a lifestyle series coming out in Netflix next month. You know, how successful that is. Polo failed on Harry's front. How successful that is remains to be seen. I personally don't like lifestyle. I never watch cookery programs. I think they're cheap television. And you know, they'll only appeal to a certain quarter. But let's go back to the brand. If you want to sell a brand, don't be political, because mud does stick. And administrations change every 4 years in the United States. If you're lucky, changes every 8 years. But mud does stick, and administration has changed, and they backtrack from this sort of open support of the Democrats.
What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Other royal experts have noticed this pattern too. Meghan often arrives later, makes a big entrance, and suddenly the focus shifts from the cause to her. So how do people feel about Meghan's role in the Invictus Games? It's a mixed bag. Some fans love her involvement, saying she's just being supportive of her husband, but critics argue that she's overshadowing the very people the event is meant to honor. One veteran even told a news outlet, "We're here to celebrate courage and resilience, not Hollywood-style PR stunts." And if you love deep dives into the royal family, celebrity drama, and exclusive updates, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.